All of a sudden, out of the blue, I've had a short on my channel get a ton of views, and it's been on my channel for probably a year or two, but it really started taking off. I know a lot of people found that short through searching for crochet borders. In the short, I don't go into a lot of detail, so I'd like to just take a minute and address that crochet border now and just talk a little bit about that. I don't currently have this blanket anymore. I actually made it for my daughter. She has been using it ever since. It is on her couch. I know it's been through the wash a couple times and it's just well used. I don't have it in my possession, but I'm going to try to, whenever I can, just pop it up on the screen because I still have a little bit of footage from that. So that border is from the channel Hectanuga 1. I believe her name is Emmy, and I will link the video down in the description box that I got it from. She's just doing hers on a little square. The big difference between that one and hers, and a blanket I'll show you in just a second, is that that one is on fleece. So when I did this, I bought the fleece, and then at that point I had to take a rotary cutter with a skip blade and cut the edge of that. And then at that point I took some Super Saver and went through and, made my initial stitches, and then I did like another row there of, I believe I did like half double crochets or double crochets to just get an existing row on it before putting the border. So it does look slightly different, and that is the difference. It's that additional row on there. So you could, if you wanted to, if you had any blanket that you were using, it doesn't have to be fleece, you could put that row of double crochet all the way around it and then go ahead and put her border on there. That would definitely work as well. But if you don't, let me show you what it looks like. So here is a blanket I did several years ago, and this is like one of my favorite blankets. So it is a scallop in the round. I mean, it's a square, but a scallop in the round. I will link the video that I got the stitch tutorial from, and then I did a video fairly early on in my YouTube days where I compared this blanket or this ombre blanket with one I did in Super Saver. So I will link that too. It goes into a little more detail about the yarn and all that. This is, I remember it was like the color sepia, and I am like blanking out on what yarn it was. Was it Pound of Love ombre? That doesn't sound right. It is in that video though, and I will, I'll try to link the yarn and stuff as well. This is what the border looks like on the scallop, and I thought it was perfect for this just because it was a scalloped blanket anyway. I love the picots. I really thought it worked great. And to be honest, I had this blanket completely done. I just didn't have a border on it for the longest time because I didn't know how I wanted to finish it off. And then after doing that one, I did finish this and I absolutely love it. I think it was a really, really good choice for this blanket. But again, it's quite a bit different look than the fleece just because of, it's called an ombre yarn, but it is a striped yarn, really, basically. Yeah, I really like how it turned out. The border itself is super easy. Anyone can definitely do it if you can do a double crochet, and picots are super easy because they're just single crochets. It's definitely a beginner friendly border that I do think maybe looks a little bit fancier than how do I want to say this? Like it looks like more effort went into it than really did. So yeah, it is great as far as that aspect goes. I have not done this border in any other yarn other than a 4-weight, so I can't really tell you how it would look like, done differently. Again, this is that ombre yarn, and then on the fleece blanket, it was Super Saver in, I want to say it might have been like thyme or sage, something like that, and then white. Crochet borders can be tricky because there are so many options out there, and especially like if you're doing one, like you're doing a blanket, if you're just doing a stitch or whatever, or, you know, or like the pattern you're using doesn't have a border and you want to add it, you know, it can be tricky to decide what you want to do. And what I like to do, like my thought process is I want to do a border that complements the blanket. So this can be whether it is a crochet blanket or whether it is like fleece that I'm putting crochet on. So I thought this was perfect because it already had the scallops in here and it was just like a larger, more separated, fancier scallop. For me, I wouldn't have wanted to do something like angular or geometric with this because it had the soft scallops and like the soft color transitions, and it's just like softer muted colors, where I feel like if you are doing something, you know, sometimes it depends on, you know, the recipient of the blanket, but it's like, you know, I had made some fleece blanket for my father-in-law a couple years ago, and it was like a white fleece, and it had, I want to say like navy and maybe like a dark hunter green, and it was deer that was on it. I can't remember if there was anything else, but like deer, kind of woodsy type looking. And, you know, I wanted it to be like a more, I don't know, masculine, like more geometric type of stitch on it to complement, like I said, who it was going for. And so for something like that, I chose to use a super dark blue, since there was already the dark blue in the blanket with the deer. And then I did like a mesh. So I did 2 rows. So I did the like single crochet chain, single crochet chain, and then, you know, just did like 2 rows of that. And I thought it turned out great because it was geometric. To me, it still looked more masculine, and it just had like a sharper feel to it. I don't know if that's the right word, but it was like a structured, you know, I wouldn't have wanted to do like picots or something on that because I think that would have maybe made it look more feminine or like more younger, you know, for a younger person, where this was an older adult. But I definitely like to try to echo the feeling of the blanket that I'm doing. So, you know, using similar, obviously similar colors, probably everybody does that, but yeah, just keeping the theme and the shape and the colors and really looking at it as a whole when trying to decide what type of border. The couple blankets that I've made that I loved the most, I have given away, unfortunately, and I don't have them to show you. Some of them were from before I really started my Instagram even, and I did that like a year before I started YouTube. And, you know, it's like I thought for sure I had pictures on Instagram, but I didn't. I also love anything that kind of looks like ribbing. I think something that looks like a ribbing, it can be pretty neutral and go for a lot of different styles. So, you know, something where you might do like some front post crochets or like front and back post alternated, something like that. Not necessarily like a big contrasty type of person, like just that doesn't appeal to me as much personally. That's just a preference. I like things to really blend in and look like part of it. So I'm making one, yeah, I'm not looking for like an accent color to like spice it up. I'm really looking at something that's going to be cohesive and just kind of all blend together. If it is a very soft pattern, I want it to be like a soft looking border. If it is a sharper or more geometric, I think going that route is great for your border as well. You know, when you're looking at like the fleece blanket, you know, I mean, there's how many, who even knows how many fleece prints there are? I have no clue whatsoever. The one I did for my daughter, to me, like, I don't know what style you would necessarily call that. I would classify it like cottagecore, I believe is what I think it probably is. And so I wanted something that just felt a little bit more whimsical. I wanted it to be a little more feminine. I wanted it to be a little more playful. And to me, I think that's why it works so well. Even though in that particular blanket, I did use 2 different yarns in my border, that's not something I normally gravitate to. I'm not looking for a lot of contrast or a ton of detail in it. I just wanted to kind of pull it all together. So I don't generally use multiple colors in the the border, but I thought it worked great with that particular one. I thought it gave it just a little more detail and a little more whimsy. So it really is one of, even though it isn't like a crocheted blanket, it is one of my favorites of all times that I've ever done, just because it was so fun with the little mice and strawberries. And on a different note, I had actually heard Erica from It's Time for Yarn talk a few times in her, in some different blanket videos she did, about one thing she really considers important when doing blanket borders is looking for no pill or low pill yarn, which is a great idea, and also like doing a darker color, like especially if you are giving it to maybe kids. And her reasoning for this is, you know, if you're on the couch or you're wherever and you're grabbing your blanket and pulling it up, you know, chances are your hands are going to be on the border. So I know she has said she is not necessarily a fan of doing like white or like a pastel color because, you know, we all kind of have dirty hands. They can be oily, you know, like you're just your normal skin oil. You might have dirt. You could have like Cheeto dust on them for all I know, you know, anything like that where it could just get that outer edge a little bit more dirty than the rest. So when I heard her say that, I thought that is really pretty good advice. Now, if the project that I was doing, like that fleece blanket, called for white, you know, I think that that would, you know, I'm going to use it if that's what I think is best. But just for like general ones, or, you know, giving them to someone that I think maybe might be a little rougher on the blanket and you know, not as careful with it, I would probably go with Erica's advice and, you know, pick a little bit darker color for that border. You know, with something like this border and the one on the fleece, you know, with it being a little more delicate, you're probably not going to be pulling on it. You know, you would probably grab more of the blanket just because it is like more delicate than the rest of it. So something to consider. I mean, nothing that you have to, you know, live by any means, but something to definitely consider. And like I said, when she was using the fleece or the low pill fleece for the same reason, just because of it getting a little more action, you know, grabbing a little more, stuff like that. So I tend to, if it is a crocheted blanket and not a fleece blanket, I do try to make the border out of whatever type of yarn that you know, the rest of it is made out of, just because it will have the same washing and drying instructions. And if it were to shrink or something like that, you know, it would probably, you know, like shrink at the same rate. Like you wouldn't have the outside border shrink a bunch and the inside of the blanket not shrink, and then, you know, like have it kind of puckered up and stuff, or the opposite. I just think it's good to kind of use the same. So it, you know, not that it has to be the same color, but I do like to, yeah, use the same yarn throughout just for that continuity. And, you know, you just don't know how things are going to get taken care of once it's outside of your hands. So I am going to keep this pretty short. I hope this will help you out if you found my channel through that fleece blanket. That fabric was from Joann, so I don't know if there is any of that left in stock. I don't know if they had it last year even, but that is where I had gotten it from. We all know that that's a limited supply right there as far as Joann goes. So that is still bumming me out a little bit, but I'm getting sick of talking about it. If you want to see, I've got a couple videos. I've got one with a great alternative for you to get yarn if you have been shopping at Joann's and you're looking for an alternative, and I will go ahead and link that for you if you want to check that out. But like I said, I hope this helps clear up all the questions on the crochet border of that fleece blanket. I'll have a section down low in the description box with links to all the videos that I mentioned and all that too. So thank you so much for talking yarn with me. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.